So Elaine, I'm a nurse practitioner who works in a clinic. You know that we have hospitals and clinics, and you've probably been into a doctor's office or a clinic before, like if you're feeling sick or you get hurt or something's going on. So I'm going to show you what we do if someone comes in. The first thing we do is ask them why they're here. What are you here to do today? And they tell us what's going on, and a lot of times we'll have to ask a lot of clarifying questions to really, because they may think one part of the story is very important, but there are other things we need to know to get to the source of what's going on, right? People don't always know what to tell you. So when you come in, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check your vital signs. So this will be any of them. You can stick any finger in there.
For my thumb.
Okay. Let's see. And so when we check this, it will check your heart rate. You can see it's checking how fast your heart is beating. And it's beating 80 beats a minute, which is excellent. And then that's your oxygen saturation, which tells us if your lungs are doing a good job and your heart is doing a good job of getting oxygen out to your tissue, and it's perfect. So we check that, and then we check blood pressure. And kids don't normally have trouble with their blood pressure, but sometimes grown-ups do, right?
I love these things.
So this is a blood pressure cuff. Hold your arm straight out. And you want to check someone's blood pressure when they're sitting down, ideally when they've been sitting down for like 5 or 10 minutes so that they're not just all worked up from moving around. And then you screw this on and you pump it up, and you can see right here, this is called a sphygmomanometer, just because medical people like to make weird words, sphygmomanometer. And that is measuring the pressure in your blood, in your veins and your arteries. And so we're listening, and we can hear little beats. And when we hear the top beat, that's your top blood pressure number, which tells us how hard your arteries are struggling when your heart is pumping. And then the bottom number tells us when your heart is resting, how hard they're working. So this is a really good measurement of if people are having a little bit of blockage, or if their heart is struggling to pump, and it tells us how much strain is going on in their body. So we want to keep their blood pressures normal. So we always check that.
So it's not like, it's like a stethoscope, but it's like designed differently, so it's like for that exactly.
Yeah, you still use your stethoscope to listen though. Some machines will pick up the sounds for you, but they're not always right, because they can feel that pulsation in there, from a person's blood vessel, but your ears hear it better. So having a person at the bedside is still really important in medicine. Thank goodness machines can't do all of our jobs yet, because they would try.
And then people would stop doing it, and then it wouldn't work out, and then what if this is wrong? Then they might get sick from doing the wrong amount, and then So it's, even if machines do everything for you, still try to do it for yourself.
Yeah, you still need people. It's important. So the next thing we do, so if you go to a clinic or a doctor or even the hospital, someone's going to listen to your heart, right? And so when they're listening to see how fast it's beating, what does it sound like? Do you have any weird swishy sounds in there? Maybe the valves in your heart aren't closing all the way, and then instead of it sounding like boom, 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 it would sound like pch, pch. And when we hear that little swish, we call that a heart murmur, and we know one of your valves isn't closing all the way. Yours sound perfect. And then we'll listen to your lungs and see if we hear any weird sounds in there. So that's how we start every patient exam.
Wow.
Yeah. So sometimes if we hear anything abnormal when we're listening with the stethoscope to someone's heart, or if they came in because their heart's beating funny, or they're short of breath, or their chest feels heavy, we'll do something called an EKG. And the EKG is a tracing of the electrical impulses in your heart. So we use these little pads, and we put them on your chest, and then we connect them to all these crazy looking wires. And it takes forever to set this up, but the EKG tracing itself, once we hit start on the machine, takes 12 seconds. And in 12 seconds, we get multiple snapshots of the beats of your heart, and we can tell if something's going on there that's abnormal. So that's a special test we might do if someone came in with a particular heart issue or like some swelling in their feet or something that just wasn't quite normal. And then of course we have our equipment to look in your ears, which I'm sure you've had done at the doctor before, and to even look into people's eyes if needed. So we can look behind the pupil with these. We have just some special tests we can do if people need additional workups.
And about this, isn't that thing that like you put on your chest, right? And then they like play it, and then they're like, duh, and like if
you're talking about the defibrillator.
Yeah,
So that's a special kind of thing. And some defibrillator machines can get an EKG tracing just like this. That's a really good point. But if someone's heart is not beating appropriately, sometimes we have to shock them back into the right rhythm because the heart is all about electric impulses. And so we do have a special machine that does that, but we don't keep that in our clinic. If someone needs that, we have to call the ambulance to come and bring that to us for them. But hopefully if they're having that serious a problem, they went to the emergency room instead of coming here. We hope.
So that's a good difference to remember, that this is different than that, because that doesn't really like zap you out of anything.
Yeah, this one's just going to record. It doesn't do any intervention. It's not going to shock you at all.
Yeah, because it confused me with that.
Yeah. So you don't have to be scared of it. It's not going to hurt you.
Is this connected to it, or?
It is, yeah. These are the wires that connect to the machine, and then this little bitty machine does the tracing, and it prints it out on this graph paper. My pack's not open, but it prints it out on graph paper so that we can see what the heartbeats are doing.
That reminds me of Neapolitan ice cream. Chocolate, strawberry.
Just yummy. I love it.
We're back with Nurse Ann. So let's get right into it. Well, I would just like to ask you some questions.
Okay, let's go.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me in my roomies. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your career?
Sure. I've been a nurse for 23 years, and I became a nurse practitioner in 2002. And a nurse practitioner is a registered nurse who goes back to school to learn a little bit more about diagnosing patients and doing things that are more along the lines of what you typically see a doctor do. So that's my career, and yeah.
Hallelujah, yes, Lord. What is the most rewarding, beautiful, and life-changing moment in your career?
Oh, that's a big question, Elaine. I think when I think about what's rewarding in my career, it's that it's come full circle. So I started off dealing with pregnant women and babies, and I took care of people who had high-risk pregnancies and helped them really fight, to get through that pregnancy and get their baby here safely. And now I work across the entire lifespan, and I do something called hospice care, which is where we are taking care of dying people who have a diagnosis that we know is going to not give them a lot of time left to live, and we help them die comfortably. So I think that's the proudest thing for me, and the most rewarding thing is that I've come all the way from bringing life into the world to letting life leave this world comfortably. And I feel like it's really broadened the way I feel about people, and it's given me an opportunity to help people in every stage of life.
And it's like amazing, because you don't know. Maybe the baby that you let out the stomach, they grow up and then you help them die comfortably. It's the same person that you took out the stomach. It's like, that could happen.
It really could. It really could. I hope all of my babies live longer than me, but you never know.
On that note, what are some of the toughest challenges that you've ever had to push through to overcome in your work? And how did you go about doing so?
So absolutely, hands down, like people have war stories, those things that like really were challenging for them. And our war story in healthcare was COVID-19, because it just came out of apparently nowhere, like it was just here, and we didn't know a lot about it, and it was really scary, and we knew a lot of people were dying, and we had to figure out very quickly how to take care of those people and do what was right for our communities, but also protect ourselves and protect our nurses and our doctors, and take care of all of that at once. So it was a really challenging time in healthcare, but something I think we handled really well, and I'm super proud of.
So how did you do it?
So my job at my hospital is to oversee clinics, and so what we did was to reorganize our clinics, get drive-through lines where people could come in and see nurse practitioners and doctors and get treated. And then this very clinic that we're sitting in right now was a call center where our nurse practitioners and doctors called patients every day to check on them at home, and if they needed oxygen or medicine delivered to their home, we made sure that stuff got to them. And so
right away.
Yeah, so we were able to keep a lot of people out of the hospital and safe in their homes while they recovered.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool time.
Now, as a kid living during the pandemic felt a little scary. Do you think COVID prepared us to fight another pandemic if we ever see one again?
Absolutely. COVID was a practice run, right? We haven't had to deal with anything like this in medicine in a long time, because we have vaccines and we have things that keep people from getting super sick with the illnesses we used to see. So this was a really great practice run for if something else comes along. We now know how to communicate effectively. We have apps on our phones and communication systems that we didn't have before. We know how to shut down clinics and move things into central locations. We know how to get supplies and how to take care of things in a way that we didn't know before. So I definitely think it's prepared us to take on other emergencies if we have to.
Yeah, and there's gonna be lower ones, definitely lower ones, and hopefully there's not higher ones, but it might come to that, but we're not hoping for that. We're manifesting that that's not gonna happen.
That's right.
What advice can you give to those who want to study medicine or work in the medical field?
Medicine is an amazing field. It's constantly changing and evolving, and so it's a really fun field to work in. I think if you think that you might want to work in this field one day, spend a little time paying extra attention in your science classes, because we definitely are very science-based. Biology and chemistry and even math and physics are a big part of what we do. So paying attention and developing those skills, but also pay attention to people. If you want to work in medicine, you've got to be good with people, otherwise you'll be terrible at medicine, because a lot of what we do is just knowing our patients and hearing our patients and understanding them. So just get to know people and study your sciences hard.
Well, I'm so glad you came. Thank you so much, Aunt Anne, Nurse Anne. Is there anything else you want to say to my roomies?
Roomies, healthcare is a great career. If you want to help people in your community and have a career that's very rewarding to you and really fills a need that we have, there is always room for you in the healthcare field. So we would be happy to have you.
Welcome to my house. Turn it out. Show me what you do now. We don't have to go out. Go out. Welcome to my house. You heard me? We ain't gotta go out, 'cause what? Welcome to my house. It's my house. What? Welcome to my house. It's my house.